I'm David Warren, President and CEO of Bridgeford Trust Company. Decanting, as a concept, has become a very hot topic across the United States. And essentially what we're talking about with decanting is pouring an old, tired trust into a new trust with more favorable and more modern trust provisions. For example, taking a trust that was established maybe 70 years ago, before there was asset protection trusts available, before there were directed trusts available, and all of these other sort of proverbial bells and whistles that are out there now. This idea of decanting can bring and breathe new life into old, stale, trusts that just aren't performing the way they should be. So we understand the concept of decanting, and we realize how important it is in the industry. But how does it really work? And I think that's kind of a different question, and that's what we want to talk about briefly. To decant a trust is actually a lot easier than most people realize. And it's really a game of establishing jurisdiction in a trust state that has a decanting statute. If you think about a chess game, for example, it's much like that. It's making the move sequentially to be where you need to be in order to take advantage of the best decanting statute in the country, which has been determined to be South Dakota. Consistently over the last 4 or 5 years. So we'll use South Dakota as an example. If we have an old, tired trust that we want to change in many, many different ways, the best state to do that is South Dakota because it's the most liberal. But how do you get there? Let's presume it's a Pennsylvania trust. Well, the first thing you need to do, which is actually a lot easier than most people realize, is get the jurisdiction of South Dakota to vest on that trust. It's a fancy way of saying get that trust into South Dakota. There are multiple ways to do that. In Pennsylvania and in most states across the country, there actually are statutes on the books that provide for an easy and smooth transfer of trust jurisdiction from one jurisdiction to another without having to go to court and without having to spend a lot of money. It's first and the easiest way to do it. Once the trust is in South Dakota, then you can use the decanting statute. First easy way to do it. Another way to do it is to look at the trust document itself and simply appoint a successor trustee or an additional trustee, or remove a specific trustee, all of which are easy to do depending on what the documents say, and appoint Bridgeford Trust Company, for example, as a trustee. Because Bridgeford Trust Company is a South Dakota chartered trust company, jurisdiction immediately vests in South Dakota as a matter of South Dakota law. And to me, that's a bit of the chess game here that a lot of people don't realize. That's how easy it is to become subject to the laws of South Dakota, which is what we want. Once that happens, then the decanting statute applies, and we can make all kinds of changes, and as I said, breathe new life into an old, stale trust. There are, in certain circumstances, the only way to do it is to go to court, but that's increasingly rare. There are provisions outlined in case law around the country that talk about courts don't want to get involved with this jurisdiction fight. It's objectively demonstrated that some jurisdictions are better than others, so Pennsylvania court is going to have a hard time denying somebody's request to move a trust out of Pennsylvania into South Dakota because of the myriad of advantages that exist in that state that just don't exist in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or California or New York or most other states in the country. So the mechanics of how to do it are not as mysterious as people may think. There's not as much smoke and mirrors involved with this process. Again, the key is getting jurisdiction to vest over the trust, and that's accomplished very easily by getting a trust company such as Bridgeford, again, that has South Dakota trust powers. For more information on the mechanics of decanting, feel free to go to our website. We've written extensively on it. We spend a lot of our time working with advisors around the country and around the world, explaining how this works and helping them get a trust in the South Dakota so we can deliver the changes that we'd like to make to the trust and deliver more control back to the family and beneficiaries.